How are you, Donna?
Oh, Donna Sorkin, I met you in 1997 after you published your book. And
Oh,
you,
really?
yeah, and you were speaking at an event, and you probably don't remember it because you did so many of those events, but I remember. And I also have a cochlear implant, and I've had it for over 30 years, and it transformed my life. And it also propelled me to a life of advocating for people with hearing loss. And most recently, I became involved as the executive director of a sort of a new organization called the American Cochlear Implant Alliance. And
Great.
yeah, and our whole purpose is to improve access for people who need cochlear implants and to help them have information. So we are thrilled for you for two reasons. One is this is going to really improve your life. And secondly, by example, you're going to help others choose this option. And so we're really, really happy that you've done this. And so thank you for moving forward. And
Thank you very much.
yes, and thank you for talking to us today. So I have some questions. And
Sure.
yeah, the first one is you were bullied as a child. You've said that in some of your interviews. And that was because you wore hearing aids and you maybe were a little bit different from the other kids. And this was one reason that you sought to begin doing bodybuilding and getting involved. And bullying and stigma, unfortunately, are factors for a lot of children. So we wondered what you might be able to share about your life when you were a child, what you did and what other children could learn from you.
Well, when I was young, I had to overcome, I had two obstacles. It was the hearing, and I had a severe speech impediment. So as a child, a lot of people didn't want to be friends with me because they felt like they were embarrassed to be friends with me because I was wearing this old-fashioned hearing aid, which was very visible in plain view. So what I did as a child, I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. So I used to read a lot of comic books to escape the pain because I wanted to be like the Incredible Hulk, like Superman, because to me, that was my escape because every day I had a father that raised me. He rejected me, so I had to carry his pain as well. So in my situation, I just kept saying to myself, what can I do to better my life? That's why when I discovered bodybuilding, because being bullied, being beaten up, I didn't want to get beaten up anymore because the fact that I was small and skinny, I wanted to be strong enough I could fight my own battle. So then I discovered fitness and bodybuilding. But what's interesting, it taught me the discipline. It became my passion. And I decided I'm going to embrace that passion and that could have taken me somewhere, even though people back then, they condone and say, why are you working out with weights? Why are you bodybuilding? You should get an education. You're never going to make a living. But I just loved it because it gave me a better sense of self-security. So I continued with that. And over the time, when I developed the discipline, then I decided later on to work on my speech because I said, if I could build a body, a beautiful body, why not change myself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So then I used to work on my speech. I used to learn to speak by the feeling of my tongue. But then back then, when I was little, I wore a hearing aid. And every 6 months, I would switch the hearing aids back and forth because my parents didn't want to buy an extra hearing aid. So I figured, why not switch back and forth? Because someone told me when I was young, if you don't wear the hearing aid in one ear ever, you're going to have probably hearing problems later on in life, and you may be rejected by a hearing aid in the future. So the one hearing aid I switched every 6 months. The hardest thing for me was to be in school because in school I had to mostly read lips. A lot of times the teacher would talk and they faced the blackboard. So I would fail classes. Eventually, I got to the point that I had to tell people I have a hearing loss because I convinced people many years I didn't have a hearing loss because I didn't want to be shame or be felt sorry for. So when you take, I decided to take action for myself. When I started to take action for myself, everything started to change.
That's really meaningful. Thank you for sharing that, Lou. And I think it's going to be a really important message for a lot of children to I've heard what your story was. You shared that during your career, after you became involved as a star, that you used hearing aids, and you also used lip reading as you did when you were younger. But there were still times when you had difficulty and that you had communication challenges. What did you do to facilitate communication in what is often a difficult setting for anybody?
Well, I went to the New York Leaf for the Hard of Hearing for many years to learn how to lip read. Because when you have a profound hearing loss, you have to see the person's mouth. So I became an expert lip reader. But I was always embarrassed to say to someone, listen, I'm hard of hearing, I can't hear, could you please repeat it? Because a lot of people don't want to repeat it. But like you were saying before, I'm at the point now, over the years, I got to the point that it's me who's suffering, not them. So I demand them to repeat something. If I go to a crowded restaurant, I demand that I could sit at a table where it's not as noisy because you have to take action for yourself. So that's why, as a little kid growing up, I started to have more confidence because my father convinced me that wasn't bright enough, that he put so many limitations on me. And I refused to believe that, because if I believe everything he said, I wouldn't be what I am now. So what I did, I'd taken the high road, that if I didn't have a hearing problem, I wouldn't be as famous as I am now. So I changed from negative to positive. It's interesting. What amazes me over the years, I've done a lot of signing at Comic-Con. I would see people come over to me with cochlear implant, and I was amazed how well they can hear. And so over the years, I've thought about this. It's interesting because they told me before they were completely deaf, and now they're able to hear, and they also speak, articulate very well. So that's my whole journey. So basically, I got to the point that I ended up doing plays. I've done over 6 TV series. I've done over 50 feature films. But it's all about yourself, maximizing yourself. I wanted to maximize hearing as much as I could. But the thing that excites me the most is that last February, when I had the cochlear implant, it was a dream of mine because I was able to get the clarity I never heard before.
Yeah, that's really so wonderful to hear how you turned a negative into a positive and just move forward despite the challenges. Fear of surgery is one reason that people who could benefit from a cochlear implant don't move forward. In fact, it's one of the reasons that we hear very often from people. Somebody may wander into a cochlear implant center and find out that they are a candidate, or they may not go in at all because they're fearful of surgery. Was that the case for you? Were you fearful about the surgery, and how did you get over your concerns and move forward?
Well, I've always thought about a cochlear implant, but the thing is that over the time, I heard people saying that if you have a cochlear implant, you're never going to go back to a hearing aid. The canal gets destroyed. So I had a friend of mine that lost his hearing. He ended up having a profound hearing loss. He did a lot of research, and he ended up getting a cochlear implant. And I was amazed that his word discrimination went from 12% up to almost 95%. So that convinced me, why not? Why can't I do it? He's 72 years old. But the amazing thing about me, my word discrimination went from like 20% up to 65% that 3 months ago. Right now, it's probably be much higher. But that's why I'm happy to have this talk about this, because other people be in the same situation like me, if they see that I had a chance to do it, they could benefit too. Because people think of brain surgery, they think it's you could be like the bionic man. So all that's going to change because it's only a 2-hour surgery for me, and with no pain, and it's such a life-changing experience.
Right. I think that's really important, and an important lesson to convey to people. Um, your public statements about why you went forward really emphasize your desire to stay active and healthy as you age. And at ACI Alliance, we were so pleased that you said this. because that's a really important lesson for older people. And that older adult population is where so many people are now that could benefit from this. And research confirms what you said, that staying connected via hearing is important with the appropriate technology, just as you've done. And it's been shown that it will help people to stay connected. It will help their cognitive health. So tell us more about your perspective about healthy aging and staying active.
Well, I've encountered every injury to mankind. I've had surgeries, both knees replaced, both hips replaced. I participate. I've done everything you can think I've done in life. I mean, but the amazing thing about me is that it's all about inside your head. It's the mindset that you have to say to yourself how much you like your passion and how much you appreciate yourself. That keeps you young because for me, for example, that's why getting the cochlear implant, I didn't care anymore what people thought because I wanted to, like you said before, I want to hear better because I'm the one who's suffering. So I have the ability, I'm the kind of person I love to maximize what I have. I want to be the best I can be. You cannot compete with other people. So I got to the point to compete with myself because when you compete with yourself, that makes you rich because everything else is secondary. But that made, to me, that life rewarding for me because that's why now with the hearing, it's like a dream of mine, able to hear and speak better. And it also helped me with my acting, my dialogue, my communication with people. So basically, I feel like I'm 40 inside my head because the fact that there's so much more I want to achieve and accomplish because I'm very happy I have this now because it takes me back to my childhood of those days wishing that which I had this, now I do have this.
I love that. And I love the expression of being everything you can be. And that's so integral to who you are as a person and such a great positive message to share with other people. And, you know, a lot of your fans remember you as the tough guy who overcame challenges and faced down your foes. And people with hearing loss face challenges in their daily lives, including what you experienced in your own family with people making judgments about what you were capable of doing, whether you were smart enough to do things. So what can you tell us about the importance of addressing your hearing loss in overcoming those challenges?
I would say do not put limitations on yourself. Have a vision and strive what you want to do with yourself because you really have to take care of your body besides your mind. You have to take care of your health because that's important because overall gives you the discipline that you want to do. For example, that's why so many older people now, my age, they have a hearing loss, but they're very upset, they're very angry because they don't know what to do and they're afraid to get a hearing aid because, quote, they don't want people to think they're old. I'm gonna be 70 years old. But that's what people think. That's why a lot of times people have negative energies, the negative voice in the head, for probably from their experiences, being told that they have these limitations. See, my father put so many limitations on me, but I've broken every one because I love challenges. That's why the day I go under the ground, at least I can look back and say I've done everything I want to achieve. I never have to look back and say I should have, I should have. I don't believe in the word if. It's all about taking action. Like I love challenges. I love taking action. I love getting knocked down, getting up again. Here's a perfect example. My father told me when I was very young, he said, because of your hearing loss, you'll never be a sanitation worker. You'll never be a policeman. Maybe you could drive a cab someday. Well, guess what? 15 years ago, I got sworn in and I became a certified deputy sheriff. I had the highest score in the class. What does that tell you? Take action for yourself. Maybe that's the only thing he would be proud of.
That's terrific. And I hope everyone who listens to this will
Yeah.
recognize that it's time to take action on their hearing loss. And if they're a candidate to move forward and to do what they need to do. And we have a lot of information on our website to help people know what to do. So let me ask you about your outcomes so far. It's been about 4 months since you were activated. What do you notice that's different? And how's it better for you?
Well, when I first activated, I heard a lot of bells and chimes because that's called mapping. So over a period of time, that was started to change because I was given different exercises to do on the iPhone. For example, you have an app where you hear different words and you can learn to differentiate the different words as far as like the matching the sound. What's amazing to me that I hear different sounds like the refrigerator, like the text, so many other sounds magnified. To me, I would say that or maybe a fraction of what normal people, how normal people hear far away. With the hearing aid, I couldn't hear the sound far away, something close. Sometimes the hearing aid, you may have more direction, but the cochlear implant was much broader. Like, for example, I was standing 50 feet away from my wife, and I said to her, talk very low, whisper to me. I heard every word she said, looking at her. I could not do that with a hearing aid.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say it's affected your family and your friends and the people around you as well as yourself?
Yes, because people, they get excited if they heard I had it done because I haven't heard one negative comment because especially that they're very happy for me. They're happy to hear this because it's amazing that there's so many people out there. They have friends and relatives that have a hearing loss, but it's kind of like a quiet because there's shame to it. Because in the 50s, when I was very young, it was like glasses. People didn't know what hearing aids was, so you were like considered like a freak because the old-fashioned hearing aid I had when I was 6 years old, it was a strap around the chest and the bottom of the wire coming down my neck. So I felt like an alien. That made me feel self-conscious. And that's why like now it's so different because the public much more educated, especially now Cochlear has a phenomenal audiologist that they help people and they can have a great communication with them on a personal level, giving them hope because what is it now? It's all about hope. It's so important, hope and faith to people.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's a super important message for all of us to convey and to ensure that people know that they have that ability to change and improve. So do you have any questions for us?
I I would just say that I'm amazed that you told me you had this done 30 years ago. And well, let me ask you a question. Did you have perfect hearing before you lost your hearing?
I had nearly normal hearing as a child.
Okay.
So my hearing changed dramatically when I was in my 20s and 30s. And by the time I was close to 40, I really wasn't getting much at all. I certainly couldn't use the phone. You said you had about 20% word discrimination before you had your cochlear implant. Mine was 4%.
Wow.
So that's guessing. That's like
Well,
nothing.
what's interesting, I was saying to Renee, in my situation, I never had perfect hearing before. I was profound deaf close to birth. Now, that's a huge difference from cochlear because people that have lose their hearing, they get cochlear. But for me, you're talking about someone who has a profound hearing loss and able to hear almost good as a normal person. That's huge. That's why the people out there that have the kind of similar problem, they shouldn't feel negative about it because if it helped me, it can help them tremendously.
Yeah, I get it. But I think the thing that's amazing about this technology is it helps people all along that hearing spectrum. People like yourself who had very significant hearing loss as a child, and you could have probably had this technology long before you did, but you had it, and it's already making a big difference for you, and
Yeah.
will continue to make a difference. So it's never too late. That's the message. It's never too late to do this. It's always better to do it earlier if you can, but it's never too late. And so I think your example is going to help us send that message to people of all ages, and your message that you should be the best that you can be, and that this helps you to be the best that you can be, is so integral to pursuing a cochlear implant. So we're so happy that
Thank you.
that you're doing this and that you're part of our getting the message out to the larger world. And I'm personally very grateful to you that I had the chance to talk to you today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. I hope to see you again soon.
You will. All the best to you.
Okay. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too.